Namaskar friends. In this episode of Through Literary Lens, we are going to discuss Arun Joshi's famous English novel, The Last Labyrinth. This novel received coveted Sahitya Academy Award in 1982. This novel is a masterpiece in itself. It operates at many levels. We can explore many layers of this novel. Before taking up a critical discussion on this novel with famous writer, poet and critic Shri Rajesh Asudani Raqeeb, I would like him to speak about the outline or the basic theme of this novel for the benefit of our audiences.
Good evening, Vinodji, and good evening, all the friends. This famous novel by Arun Joshi, The Last Labyrinth, as the name goes, explores the mystery of life, I would say. Just let me outline for you the basic plot of this, then we'll explore the different aspects. Mr. Som Bhaskar is a successful businessman, millionaire. At 35, he has accomplished a lot in material terms, but he constantly feels a void. He constantly feels that something is, chattering, I want. And he says that it's the void of the world which troubles him, not the things of the world. Inner void as well as outer void. He knows the philosophy, he knows the religion, he knows the sciences, and he has inherited his grandfather's sensuality and his father's spirituality. And he sets off exploring how to fill up this void. He is happily married to Geeta and has 2 children, but still he goes after not only women but business, property, everything, till he comes across Anuradha, who is living with Mr. Aftab Rai in Banaras in a very big Haveli, and he goes to Banaras after Anuradha basically, and he is sort of absorbed in the mystery of the things there in Banaras. And in the Haveli, in the labyrinths, he knows that Anuradha is not the wife of Aftab Rai, but is his beloved. She lives with him, and there is Gargi, spiritual teacher. She is deaf and mute, and he tries to win over Anuradha. In fact, Anuradha also responds gradually and to his advances at many levels, not only physically but emotionally and intellectually too. But then when he proceeds ahead, and finally Anuradha comes to Bombay with him, but he has heart attack and mysteriously Anuradha disappears. When he goes back to Banaras again, despite himself, he finds out gradually that Anuradha was in fact sucked back, I would say. Gargi, the spiritual teacher, she promised to restore health to Mr. Som Bhaskar on the condition that he will be anyway no more for Anuradha, because Anuradha would leave him, and that's what she does. And then finally he wants to acquire Aftab's company. From beginning he has been trying. Basically the first meeting between Aftab and Bhaskar is due to he wants to acquire his plastic industry. So remaining shares, he undertakes a journey to the temple where he is told that shares are, and Dr. K accompanies him in the mountainous upward journey. Despite the medical advice, he undertakes the journey, and finally he meets Gargi there up in the temple, and he sees the flame which is regarded as the deity. But instead of being mesmerized by that flame, he just finds a bit of tranquility there. He takes the shares from Gargi, comes back to Banaras to meet Anuradha and take her along with him back to Bombay. But she, in a way, fends him off, saying that please go away, anything can happen in this Haveli, and in a way saves him. And next day again, before leaving for Bombay, he visits Anuradha, but by then she has disappeared and it is clearly hinted that she has been eliminated. He comes back to Bombay, sort of lives in the fear of Mr. Aftab Rai, and one day while entering his house, he takes the gun and in a way tries to commit suicide, but Geeta, his wife, comes and prevents him, and finally he is sucked back into his humdrum routine life, but he's always perturbed, always disturbed for something, always.
Yes.
That's the basic
Yes,
outline.
friends, you may ask, what is special about this story? What is special about this novel? Perhaps the uninitiated readers may not find any value, any significance in this simple story that seems to be just a desire of a wealthy person to have one more woman in his life beside his wife. But we have to go beyond this story which appears on the surface. If you try to probe into the various levels at which this novel operates, so we can say that the central metaphor of this novel is mystery. Everything is shrouded in mystery. There are critics who have tried to find out spirituality in the novel. They say that the protagonist is searching for his cultural and spiritual roots as he is disillusioned with the Western materialism, although these themes may be there or there to a certain extent. And some of the critics say that this novel is the novel of identity crisis. Som Bhaskar tries to find out his true identity. He has received his education in the West. He belongs to the elite class in India, owns a lucrative business. Now he finds that there is a kind of void, and they believe that this kind of void is to be filled up with spiritual experience. However, I believe it is not simply the story of search of identity, but it is something more than that. This void that he feels is mysterious one, because he has a kind of affair with Professor Leela Fadnavis. She speaks philosophy and only philosophy, and he rejects her by saying that she is not the woman who combines in herself the world of matter and world of spirit. So this gives us hint that his search is for the holistic, fulfilling experience where the sensual and the spiritual meet. So let me understand that how this is possible, where these two seemingly opposite forces come together, and that too Bhaskar tries to find these forces coming together in Anuradha. So this seems to be quite mysterious. So what, Rajesh ji, you heard about this central metaphor of coming together the two seemingly opposite worlds?
Yeah, Vinod ji, I think you have hit the right notes. I would like to first begin with Osho Rajneesh. When he says that a person who is in the physical or material want, he will not progress beyond the physical or material want. To say it in Hindi, जो कष्ट में है उसके पास दुख नहीं है. So that is the pure physical want. But Mr. Som Bhaskar has conquered that. He is a millionaire business person.
Yes.
Therefore, he feels the void which many of us don't feel, because we are trapped in the day-to-day humdrum material existence and fending for ourselves, spending for 2 meals, square meals a day.
Yes,
So
entire time and energy is consumed in satisfying the physical wants, right?
Yeah.
The food, the shelter, the clothing, the education and medical care.
Yeah.
But he is beyond this.
He is beyond that. Even he is married with 2 children. Geeta
Yes.
she's not a difficult woman. She's okay. He is happily married, we can say.
Exactly.
Then he comes across the void which people feel, which settled people feel. And then Mr. Carl Jung, who was the psychologist, and his psychology is called the psychology of afternoon.
Exactly.
It is rightly so called because in the middle age, a person who has got the basics of life craves beyond himself or herself, and he craves for the fulfilling experiences which you have just now outlined. What he craves for is the unification of physical, emotional, intellectual and artistic whole.
Yes, Rajesh, you have said very important thing. Many people believe that once your physical needs are satisfied, once your sex needs are satisfied, then you crave for or you desire only the spiritual experience. But it is not like that. Whether the sensual experience and spiritual experience are not exclusive of each other. They are not independent of each other. What Mr. Bhaskar is searching for, he wants to have spiritual experience through woman, and this is very important. Even a great feminist who has written The Second Sex,
Simone de
Simone de
Beauvoir.
Beauvoir, she says that man can find salvation through woman whom he loves with his heart and soul. Perhaps when he sees Anuradha, he is charmed by her, he is fascinated by her, not because of her external beauty, because she is not that way a pretty woman, she is perhaps ordinary looking woman, but he is able to see in her the two worlds coming together.
And that's what she says. When he tries to make love to her, finally they do also. But she says, I know, you do not want me, you want something else.
So it is through the love of Anuradha, he is able to touch that fulfilling experience for which his soul is craving for.
And surprisingly enough, when he comes back from the mountains, seeing that flame and getting the shares, and then Mr. Aftab Rai expects that Bhaskar is reformed. Now he will not want Anuradha, he has nothing to do with Anuradha. He says also that Mr. Bhaskar, you are not even reformed when you are undertaking the pilgrimage. But perhaps they do not understand, Aftab does not understand that Mr. Bhaskar does not want the spiritual experience in the traditional sense of the term. He craves for the spiritual experience as the union of which we have spoken of just now, physical, intellectual, emotional and artistic, which he assumes that Anuradha can provide it to him.
Again, if we see that this novel unfolds itself through various symbols, Gargi is the symbol of spirituality, religious force that operates in isolation. She is dumb and mute. So symbolically, spirituality is a very highly subjective experience which cannot be communicated or conveyed to somebody else, and that does not represent the fulfillment or the holistic approach to life.
Gita, with his wife, she stands, I believe, for just physicality, because when they go to Europe and America on tour afterwards, he goes with her, and then both of them are aging. Gita is also aging, so he finds her dull. Despite himself, he cannot make himself to love her like previous years.
Right, so Gargi is at one extreme and Gita is at the other extreme. Perhaps it is Anuradha whose character symbolically presents a holistic experience or unified world where erotic and spiritual, emotional and intellectual, all are so intermingled that you cannot experience one rejecting the other. Perhaps this kind of experience Bhaskar wishes to have, and he also has this fulfillment when he lives a few days in the company of Anuradha now and then when he comes to Banaras. But this blissful experience cannot be perpetuated. It cannot last forever. Bhaskar has to come back to the real and the pragmatic world where he has to discharge his duties as a businessman.
Yeah, even when he goes with Anuradha to the mountains and when they make love there, that is the blissful part of his journey. Spirituality does not lie in the temples, it does not lie in the flames, it lies in the living, breathing human bodies. And then when he comes back in Bombay also for some time, they are together, but he has the heart attack. But this is the constant yearning on the part of Mr. Bhaskar to unify the seemingly opposite domains of life. I call them seemingly opposite because they need not be mutually exclusive. But then it's all mysterious, it's all labyrinthine. We tend to lose the way because perhaps our consciousness has not yet so evolved as to envision these both or 3-4 things which we have spoken of, physical, emotional, artistic and intellectual, in a unified manner. Therefore we tend to get lost from time to time. And what is in the last labyrinth? Many a times it is said in the novel, there is death in the last labyrinth, and that death itself again is a greater mystery.
Yes, and the character of Aftab is a symbol of obstacles that come in the way of enjoying this unified experience, because the path of love does not run smooth, as Shakespeare had said, but here this path of unification of the two worlds is also beset with a lot of difficulties, with a lot of hindrances, and Aftab perhaps is the symbol of that hindrance. It is he who finally removes Anuradha from the scene. Perhaps she is eliminated, she mysteriously disappears, and mystery pervades throughout the novel, right from the beginning towards the end. Mystery pervades. And another thing that we can say to the credit of Arun Joshi, that his prose is elevated prose. It almost borders on the poetic excellence. At many places it seems to be a poetic prose. So he handles English language with such a command which is not possible for the majority of English writers even.
And why not Banaras? Banaras is the oldest city in the world, one of the oldest cities in the world.
It has got a religious and spiritual significance as well.
Yeah. So maybe author tries to say that rationality alone is not sufficient, spirituality alone
is not
sufficient, but there has to be a unification of both, but perhaps which we are not mature enough as a human race right now.
We are conditioned to separate the two worlds. Either we want to dwell in rational, physical, material world, or there are those who renounce this world and they embrace spiritual and religious world, and they simply make fun of the material and erotic world. But both of the approaches are not the right approaches. It is the holistic approach that seeks to combine both the world. Only then perhaps people who have special and mysterious yearning like that of Som Bhaskar could find solace, could find fulfillment, could find happiness in life. So I appeal all the readers to go through this novel, because this novel offers much more than we can understand.
I tried to just unveil a mystery, because mystery is mystery always, and people are content to say that it is mystery. But here in last 20 minutes we have tried to just unveil a little and give you a glimpse of what because just saying that it's a mystery will not suffice. But what exactly we can do, not if exactly, but what tentative steps we can take to unravel the mystery and what to look for, that maybe we have tried to hint it at, and you for yourself, you can read the novel and come up with what appeals to you, what is mysterious and what can be done about it.
Whatever we say, that we can say with a great pride that today we live in the age of science, we are the rational creatures, we have understood the working of the nature. In spite of all these tall claims, when we live life on day-to-day basis, I say it is very much shrouded in the mystery. We do not know what is going to happen the next moment. Despite our abilities to control the nature, despite the gadgets that we have to impart luxury and comforts to us, still we are living in the mysterious world. And the more mystery pervades in our emotional world, in our intellectual world, in our spiritual world, so mystery is all around. So Arun Joshi has tried to touch this mystery. He has tried to experience this mystery. He has tried to weave a wonderful tale out of this mystery which is all around us.
Yeah, so again I would call upon all our viewers to read for themselves and then again listen to this and come up with your own version of mystery. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. We will come back to you very soon in our another episode through literary lens.
Bye bye.